Midfield podcast here with my good friend Dan Marsden. How you doing, Dan?
Good to be back, mate.
Good to be back. It'd be nice if we were talking about a better result though, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. But can't answer everything else.
No, can't have everything. So obviously away yesterday at the Molineux. I think we always knew it'd be a bit of a tough game, but maybe looking at it beforehand, seeing that Wolves were playing in Bratislava not only 3 days before, and obviously beating them in the League Cup before, like going into the game we were expecting a much better performance from Villa than what we got.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as soon as I was quite confident going into the game, I must say, just because of the resilience that we showed against Liverpool. I thought that, it was good that we kind of knew that we could go toe to toe with teams and we could make it physical. We put the bodies on the line and kind of really grind out the results that way. And I thought that kind of performance would lend itself to a game like Wolves, to be honest with you. But obviously, once I saw the lineup, my kind of confidence levels dropped, because it was clear how important Jack was going to be in this game. Like, even before the game kicked off, obviously kind of what unfolded then highlighted that. But as soon as I saw that he was out the side, and obviously Tom Heaton was a bit missed, and Engels as well, and those kind of key players sort of lowered my expectations. But to be honest with you, I was expecting even still a lot more than what we got. Yeah,
I think before the game, obviously not seeing Jack Grealish in the side was slightly alarming, because we were kind of told that he should be back for this game. Villa are great at covering injuries, aren't they? I mean, we believe everything they say. But I didn't think we needed Jack because of how well we played against Liverpool. Because, I mean, the midfield stepped up massively, in my opinion. There was no sort of... I didn't sit there and think, we really missed Jack today. But, I mean, against Wolves, we did. We needed someone who would just retain possession and do something with it. And I feel like we didn't have that. And again, touching on what you said, seeing the lineup, it didn't fill many people with confidence. People obviously went into a meltdown, but you got to be performing better than that.
Absolutely, mate. I think, Jack's role in that game would have been... I genuinely believe it would have been a completely different result with Jack Grealish in there. I know that's kind of an easy thing to say in hindsight, but we struggled so much in just playing between our third and the midfield, and just playing that first ball and just basically retaining possession for more than 30 seconds. Jack would have been that guy, as we've seen do so many times, that picks the ball up sometimes on the edge of our own box and can just beat a man or two and then play that killer ball and get us on the front foot. And that was what we just lacked, to be honest with you. I was surprised John didn't try and put himself in that kind of position, because he's got those traits whereby he can be physical, he can shrug a man off and then play a pass, and he kind of, there was times where he did that, but he didn't have his best game. But I was just really shocked by the way that Marvellous and Douglas passed the ball, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So many times they rushed their possessions, they were too quick with it, they squandered it. And when you're giving Wolves those kind of chances, and because the midfield wasn't operating correctly and the wingers weren't tracking back properly, it meant the fullbacks were exposed. And once you give Wolves those kind of opportunities to get the ball wide, as we saw them do so many times, and that the balls were coming into the box, and we were really having to defend from quite early on in the game. As soon as we were kind of 5 minutes in and I saw that was the way that we were playing, I knew that we were going to struggle.
Yeah, especially with the injuries before the game, and even the injuries in the game. I think that really affected the game. I think I really do feel sorry for Jed Steer. I think he should feel very unfortunate. I mean, I think he's done his Achilles before, hasn't he? So, whilst it's not a surprise, it's very disappointing for him, because he's not played in the Premier League for 5 years, and especially for Matt Targett as well. Because I didn't think he had an amazing game when he was playing, but putting Neil Taylor on against the Adama Traore isn't exactly the best of ideas, is it?
I think as soon as we saw that, we knew that was going to be a disaster.
I kind of expected Gilbert to go left back and Elmo to come on, but then, I mean, Elmo hasn't really been great in the past few weeks either, so I wasn't too shocked when that didn't happen. But I think what we struggled with most, and I don't mean this to come across as a slide at Dean Smith, because his hand was forced with substitutions, but we couldn't cope with the formation, and obviously we had to make these changes, so we couldn't really do much in terms of bringing someone on to change the shape. But we didn't handle it very well, I don't think.
No, I think, to be honest with you, mate, I thought the performance all round was really poor. I thought Dean got it wrong. I think at least what it's highlighted now is that We were a lot better once we had someone in Jack's role. I don't think it's any coincidence that we had that period when we were on top once Lansbury has entered the fold. And I think at least this game has highlighted that if we are to be without Jack, we have to start either Lansbury, or I thought Connor could have come on, and just because at least those kind of players were able to kick the ball for us, and we're able to pass it around and kind of not fill Jack's boots, because they kind of are different players, but at least give us something in that regard. And I think those kind of players helped us get ourselves at the pitch, and we were able to keep possession, especially in the final third, a little bit better. I don't think it's any coincidence that kind of occurred once Lansbury had entered the field, and I think it definitely enabled us to handle Wolves a little bit better. I know we went and conceded, but the second goal was just as disappointing as the first one was, to be honest with you. I think why Douglas doesn't just go through obviously you can't tackle him in those kind of situations. I'm not expecting Douglas to come with the ball, but you have to be stronger. You have to just get him off the pitch. Is the least that you have to do, and I thought those kind of players, and again falling short of Wolves in the wide areas, was what cost us.
Definitely. I think we'll go to the first goal. So naive in terms of defending from Villa. You can't let Ruben Neves stand in open space, can you, from any form of set piece? You'd think someone would stand there. There was about 3 men in the box as well that just weren't marking anyone. The goal happened in slow motion. I don't think there's much Oyen Nyland could have done about it.
No.
I mean, there's bodies in front of him, and I guess they were all expecting a ball in the box, really, weren't they? Which it was disappointing. It was a very good finish from Neves. Can't take that away from him at all, but very naive from Villa.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen that, mate? Like that kind of free kick where it's pulled back to Neves, even if it's not a free kick, just in general open play situations. There aren't many better players in the Premier League from that kind of distance, to be honest with you, mate. Like, as soon as we saw Ruben Neves winding that one up, we all knew what was coming. And Oyen was unlucky, actually, because he got a hand to it. Yeah. He did, and it's one of those where he's always going to struggle to keep that out, and he'd need an exceptionally strong wrist to put that round the post. But I mean, as you said, when there's all those bodies in front of him, you can't expect much from Oyen, to be honest with you. I think even if we had Heaton in goal, I don't think he gets down to that one. So it's no testament to Oyen, but to be honest with you, just sloppy. I mean, those are the kind of situations whereby if you're struggling in game, then set pieces provide you with a situation which you can actively do something about. You don't need to be playing well to defend well on set pieces. All you've got to do is pick up your man, be alert to what's around you. And I don't think it was just Neves either. I think there was a few Wolves players that were kind of 20-25 yards out, and it could have fallen to any of them, to be honest with you. That was disappointing. But by that point, it was more than what we deserved. I think we could have been 1-0 down long before then, and I think Dean brought it up after the game, actually, that probably the only highlight going into half-time, the only positive that we could have taken, was the fact that it was only 1-0. And we were still in the game. We were playing poorly, but all we need to do is, kind of like they did, make the most of a set piece, and all of a sudden you're back in the game. At half-time, I thought we were pretty fortunate to just be the one down, to be honest with you. Yeah,
I think, to be fair, they had a lot of chances, but they didn't really do much with them, and the set piece being the difference for me kind of tells a story that we weren't actually that bad as people were making out. Defensively, I mean, apart from the complete lack of concentration from that set piece, I don't think we were terrible, and we kind of rode the wave as it happened. I think something that affected the game was the bookings early on to Marvellous Nakamba and Frederick Gilbert. Gilbert's more justifiable than Nakamba's, I felt. I didn't think Nakamba did anything really wrong with that. But, having your 6 who likes to break up play and has to get physical, close to the men, close to the 10 and the striker, having him on a yellow card within 10 minutes completely ruins his role. And, his passing was atrocious, as a lot of people have sort of highlighted on Twitter. He didn't have the best of games, and I do feel like the yellow cards early on did affect that for Villa. Yeah,
absolutely, mate. I thought there was just a few, as you said, in those kind of key positions, it definitely does affect them. I thought that was the worst game I've seen. Probably both of those players have in a Villa shirt, Gilbert and Nakamba, and I think probably testament to the fact that they did get those early bookings, and especially in a derby whereby the challenges do get a little bit more physical and stuff like that, and it would have been playing on their mind, but Gilbert especially was a player that I was disappointed, not just on the defensive end, but going forward as well. I thought some of his crossing into the box was pretty poor, and I thought the amount of times and the amount of emphasis that we put on crosses and long balls, given the players that we had in that front three, really was disappointing, to be honest with you, because we gave Wesley nothing in that game. The only kind of, and I'm not really going to say chance, to be honest with you, the only kind of sniff that he had was, I think it was actually, was it Anwar that pulled that shot back to him? It was kind of 20 yards on that one counter attack, which he put over. And yeah, I mean, it's not a chance. He should have put it on target, but you know, we all know that Wesley's not the kind of player that we can be expecting to see putting him in from 20-25 yards. He's a kind of 12-6 yard box kind of player. And we gave him scraps all game, to be honest with you. It was just those kind of hopeless long balls to a striker trying to occupy 3 centre backs. And again, Gilbert was kind of getting that, and there was this one time in the first half where he was crossing a ball, and the three players that we had in the box were Wesley, 3 centre backs, John McGinn and Trezeguet, and it just doesn't lend itself to crossing situations. I thought it was just hopelessness, to be honest with you, from Villa, because I didn't think there was any direction to our attack. I didn't think there was any clear system, any clear game plan, and I think those just kind of hopeful long balls and crosses reflected that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think trying to look at the game in a more positive outlook, Ezra Konsa, I thought played very well.
Definitely.
Although it wasn't ideal, the scenario of him starting with Bjorn Engels being injured, I felt like he did very well and covered for Tyrone a lot when he picked up the knock late on as well. I think he kept Jimenez quiet. They seemed to target Mings a bit more, didn't they? I think they realised they weren't really going to get anything from Konsa. Maybe because I think at times Mings can be quite relaxed, likes to let the ball run across him, tries to do a few tricks and stuff, and as I've seen you tweet, you don't think Mings has been as good since his England call-up, which I think is a fair comment. So I guess it does make sense that they targeted Mings. He didn't have a fantastic game at all, but Ezra Konsa, absolutely fantastic player. I thought he was great in the Carabao Cup game against Wolves as well. And I think, you know, come 6 months' time, 12 months' time, he'll be knocking on the door, demanding a start.
Absolutely.
He will be a very good centre-back who's ready now for the Premier League, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and it was a really tough game for him to come into, to be honest with you, because if you're giving a player like Ezra his Premier League debut, you'd want to be a team at Villa Park, preferably. You know, it's not, and especially not a team like Wolves. You know, it was a tough game for him to come into, but he looked really reassured, to be honest with you. I was really pleased for him, because it must have been quite a last minute thing. I think Dean said it was the day before that he knew Engels wasn't going to be fit, and so I can't imagine Ezri would have done too much prep in the with the kind of first team in the week and with shape and stuff like that. But he looked really reassured, and I don't actually think if we had Bjorn in there, we kind of would have seen too much in a different performance. I thought Ezri stepped up and delivered a performance which was very similar to what Bjorn would have been capable of, and that's really good to know. And I think, as you mentioned, the Carabao Cup game as well, I think those 2 young centre-backs in House and Konsa are such great assets to the club, whereby I have absolutely no fear in either of them coming in and doing a job. To be honest with you, I've got complete faith in both of them. I think they act as a brilliant back 2 to put into those kind of cup games, and they'll get many more starts in those kind of matches, and you hope in the league as well throughout the season, because they deserve it and they really rose to the occasion. And where other players, I've got to be honest with you, I don't like to speculate like this, to be honest with you, damn it, but I didn't think Target fancied it, to be honest with you. I think that played a huge role in him coming off. I thought he took the knock to the back of the head. The replays didn't show that the injury was too serious. Yeah, it might have stung for a little bit, but to be honest with you, I just don't think he was up for that game. I think Dharma was starting to run rings out around him. I think it was pretty clear that he was going to have a tough afternoon. I think he's taken a chance where he's now to take himself out of the game. And when you've got players like Ezri coming into the squad who showed absolutely nothing like that, and was probably one of the only players in the team I could have credited with giving a full-blooded performance, I was really proud of him.
So we actually tweeted out yesterday after the game to see what you guys thought about the game, get some interaction on the go. We'll start off with Jack Cudworth, former writer and Yorkshireman. Had quite a few points to say actually, Dan. First of all, midfield had a serious problem with leaving space to play into. Nakamba was horrid on the ball. El Ghazi and Trezeguet need more belief in themselves. Wes can do it, but just doesn't. Tactics are wrong, and Wolves made use of wide spaces better.
There's nothing really in there that I disagree with, to be honest with you. I think Jack's absolutely nailed it. I think the only thing which you can question is Wes didn't do it, but I question the services that I brought up earlier. I think it's a really interesting point that he's made about Trez and El Ghazi, whereby they are such players that thrive on confidence.
Yeah.
Naturally the game that they have is so based around taking players on in those kind of 1v1 situations where you're squaring up to your fullback and cutting inside. And Trez has got a box of tricks that we need to see more often, to be honest with you. He's got such capability to beat his man, I don't think we see it enough. And yeah, I think it does come back to confidence. And while when he's got a goal, he's a completely different player. Yeah. I thought in that home game against Burnley, once he put that goal away, I thought we saw a much better side to him. And yeah, I think that confidence issue is an important one to raise.
Definitely, I think with Trezeguet as well. The thing for me, I think Trezeguet is a player that has a lot of potential to be a good Premier League player. Nothing too amazing. He's quick, he's skillful. We've seen that. He's got to get out of his head that he's not in Turkey anymore, because he's so passive when we're in the defensive phase, and going forward as well. You can see he makes decisions too late, and he gives the fullbacks enough time to be able to read the play, and half the time can't even get the crossing or can't beat the man. So I think belief is a big thing, especially now, guys. We've said this so many times. On his day, he is capable of putting in truly phenomenal performances. I didn't think El Ghazi was terrible. I think, to be fair, he was our main outlet against Wolves. He was constantly picking the ball up from deep. There were a few instances where he did kind of hoof the ball upfield and sort of wasted possession, which in a Villa team that's losing is signature El Ghazi, to be fair, isn't it? Next we'll go on to Sue Webb 16. Definitely lack of belief and desire in the first half. It didn't help with the injuries early on. Better in the second half, and glad we got a goal. Really think that we're missing Grealish. I was nervous when Nyland came on. He really doesn't instill confidence. Now we're sat here with the Oyen Nyland Appreciation Society, Dan Wise and himself. If you've been a long time listener of the podcast, you know Mr. Goalkeepers Union over here.
Absolutely.
Is a fan of Oyen. And do you know what? When he came on, I too was nervous. I think I'd have been nervous for any keeper coming on though. I don't think you don't want to have to make a sub-goalkeeper appearance, especially when Oyen only plays in the under-23s the other night. He's not really played any football. But like, as we touched on earlier, I think Oyen did okay. He made a few saves, did his best with the Neves one, and definitely wasn't at fault for the second goal, which a lot of people have been saying he was. I mean, as goalkeeping performances go, without keeping a clean sheet, I thought he was alright.
Yeah, mate, he didn't. He's one of those where I wouldn't say he necessarily went and did something right, but he didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? He kind of, when he was called upon, did what he was asked to do. I don't think for the goals you can point a finger. You know, there's so many more players that you can blame ahead of Oyen for those goals. Like if we're really scapegoating him for those, then players like Douglas for the second goal, as we touched on earlier. And to be honest with you, I thought when Adama drove into the box, he had way too much space for the second goal as well. And I thought when Jimenez tucks it away, he's got about 6 yards, all around him. So I think you can look at Douglas. I think you can look at the two centre backs potentially before you look at Oyen. And to be honest with you, any player in the box for the first goal should be getting out to that Neves strike. So yeah, no way should we be looking at Oyen. But yeah, the second half was better, but to be honest with you, I'm not going to give too much credit for that. I think in a derby game, the least you can expect is a kind of 10-20 minute period where you're putting on the pressure and you have them on the back foot, especially when you're so evenly matched. I think it was good that we managed to get to that stage considering where we were in the first half, but those kind of spells in the game where you're asking questions, I think in a game like that is the least you can expect.
Definitely. Next from Keith Parry. I wouldn't say outclassed, only one down at half time with the Villa team very poor in the first half. You can see why Wolves have drawn so many games. McGinn should be stepping up and Louise at 1-0 down in the second half. We're still in it and some Villa players need a hard look at themselves. I think that's pretty spot on really. I think a lot. I saw Henry Lansbury's Instagram post. It's not very often when things were going terribly for Villa under the Bruce and whatever days, where the players would come out and actually say that the performance was unacceptable. And Lansbury came out and said that. Tyrone has said it. So I mean, at least we've got some sort of self-reflection. Then again, I don't think Lansbury really did much wrong. So I think that's more of an attack on his teammates. He only had 20 minutes to do something, but I completely agree. I don't think many players were up for it. I honestly think, touching on the mentality, I thought they've a lot of the players who played in the Carabao Cup game, like Anwar, he played, Douglas played, Ezra played, but I'm not questioning him for his sort of attitude towards this because I thought he was fantastic. But I think the players thought that this game was going to be a lot easier than it actually was.
Yeah, I think that kind of played against us, to be honest with you, having that Carabao Cup game. But the teams were so different, both ours and there in that game, whereby I think we kind of should have taken that as a bit of an irrelevance, to be honest with you. I thought it was always going to be a completely different game, and so it unfolded, and I think we didn't necessarily have the hunger. I thought we should have played on because obviously Wes and Douglas, congratulations by the way, obviously getting those call-ups for Brazil. I thought we really should have played on the confidence of Wes, especially it was literally the day before. I thought he would have been right up for it. And I really don't think that he necessarily showed it, or B, we used it to our advantage, and that was disappointing to see. And I think the mentality wasn't there, and I think that's definitely what you can fault.
Definitely. Now from Stephanie Mucklow, 2 lacks, too full on their own position, importance, need to play as if it's their position to keep every game, no guarantees to keep position. Yeah, I think especially as well with the injuries, you'd think not necessarily Ezra, because I feel like again he staked a claim, but Douglas. If you're looking at that midfield, Douglas is the one who will be dropped when Jack's back. That's how it goes. I mean, he'll obviously come on because he needs to for his work permit and stuff, but like it's his position to lose. I mean, McGinn, you could make an argument for dropping McGinn for the next game. To be fair, even Nakamba, but who really comes in then in that position? I think Nakamba's got that 6th position. Yeah. But he's got to perform much better.
100%, and I think Marvellous is a player whose game is facilitated so much by Jack Grealish because he's not a ball player, and Marvellous will hunt down the ball and do all those things which he's fantastic at and win the ball back, and then in a kind of the more routine games where we have a full squad available, he'll then offload the ball to a Jack or a John, and
who's never more than 10 yards away.
Exactly. And it seems Marvellous' role in this side is just hunt down the ball and give it to Jack, no matter where he is on the pitch. Give it to him or John, and let them be the one that drags this team up the pitch. And I think when we didn't have that, we just didn't know what to do. Once we won the ball back, there was all this kind of hopeless long balls, and it was interesting you brought back and you mentioned Bruce a minute ago, because worryingly, what the game reminded me of exactly was when we were without Jack for so long last year, when obviously Dean was in charge, and it was that kind of hopelessness, that lack of direction, where the players' heads come up and there's no clear option, there's no out ball, and worryingly, we do look a very similar team to the one that was without Jack Grealish in the Championship last season.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, mate. From Smithy, great name. I don't think we're outclassed, but we're definitely outfought, which hurts. Dino said as much after an effort is something that shouldn't need to be coached. It only takes 1 or 2 that don't fancy it, and you've got no chance. Again, spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that kind of relates back to Target, to be honest with you, and those kind of players. I've given a lot of credit to Mings actually for playing through that injury.
I think that was stupid.
Yeah,
we weren't winning the game. Why not just play with 10 men?
Yeah,
I
think
reduce the risk of a serious injury.
The last, especially with Bjorn out, I think the international break has come at a really good time for us, because it will allow us. I don't think any of the injuries that have been picked up, bar maybe Jed's, are too serious. I think we can expect he and Bjorn and Jack to be back by the next game. And that Newcastle game is now so important. I mean, even before the Wolves game, that was looked at as a must-win. But now, after that result, if we come away with anything other than 3 points, especially with the games coming up, because I believe we go to Chelsea, then United, and then Leicester, and you know, United are starting to turn it around now that this, you know, they would look good against Brighton, and so, you know, a couple of weeks ago that looked like a fixture maybe at Old Trafford where we could go and on a good day get something, because United haven't looked great, but they're starting to turn this around, and when we could potentially be looking at going another 3 games without a win, that Newcastle game just bears so much importance.
100%. From Danny SS, I don't know what you're at. Sorry, mate. Lack of belief in the first half. Thought the players did well to keep the score down and managed to play their way into the game against possibly the best Wolves side ever. Bold claim. Need to address the space we are giving wide players, though. Yeah, again, we've sort of touched on that, haven't we? I think we allow. I think in a way we always gave them too much respect. Like,
yeah. No, I completely agree.
They just weren't up for it. They weren't, and that, as people have said before, that's the frustrating part. I didn't think Wolves were that good.
No, and Dean called it the worst first half he'd seen since Wigan, didn't he? And what actually it gave me a little bit of solace actually was the way that Dean responded in his press conference. It was clear to see that he was absolutely seething. He was really not happy and didn't pull any punches. I think it was that wake-up call, to be honest with you. I think there's a lot that you can look at, and I think a few of the guys have touched on it in the comments, whereby you can fault a lot all the tactics and the player, and you know, the way the roles that they're playing and the injuries. But I just thought we were faulted by a basic lack of effort, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And from Nick Mathers, not closing down players in the final third, time and time again. When will we learn? Wesley means we play with 10 men. Now, we both like Wesley here on this podcast, so we're not going to stand for that slander.
No, I won't. I think there
was no service.
There wasn't, mate. Like, we are playing long ball to a striker who has probably never played long ball in his entire life. The systems where which he's been playing in, you know, he's obviously born in Brazil, and Bruges are a side who are obviously one of the better ones in the Belgian league. I can't say I watch too much Bruges, I have to be completely honest, but you would assume that as one of the better sides in their league, they're a side that are dominating possession and play that kind of possession-based front foot football that we so like to play, and I imagine that's one of the reasons that attracted us to Wesley. But if you're expecting him to be kind of battling with Connor Cody and those 3 Wolves centre-backs for those long balls and holding up and bringing other players into play, then he's not going to be doing that. Wesley didn't have a great game, but I don't think he had anything to live off, to be honest with you.
No. And finally from John Morgan, great name. Not outclassed but outplayed. We missed Jack. Heaton wouldn't have stopped those 2 goals, but they were preventable. Positive debut from Konsa. Louise needs to rocket up his arse. He's such a weak tackler, it's unreal. He hates Douglas Louise. I feel sorry for Trez. 2 goals for no result.
Yeah, this is. Hey, look, I've got to say, the Villa fans don't seem too disheartened. You know, we seem to have accepted the result, we moved on. I don't think anyone's too few. I haven't seen anything too outrageous said in there, to be honest with you.
Just on Villa Facebook, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Stay away from that, to be honest with you. Look, we're not going to lose our heads. It's not an end of the world performance. It's rectifiable. Yes, it's disappointing. Yes, you want to see a lot better, but it puts a lot of importance, as I said, on that Newcastle game. We've got an international break to get on the training field, get things right. I was gutted when Jack didn't get the call up, to be honest with you, but now I'm absolutely delighted that he's not going away on international duty. And there are players that we can go away, that will go away and do well. I'm looking forward to seeing Wesley and Douglas. Brazil's first game in their international break is Argentina next Friday, which would be great if either one of them gets a sniff in that game. So there's a lot to look forward to. I'm sure the players after that know that against Newcastle they've got to come up just with more fight. More ambition. We're going to be up against a team that will cause similar problems in those wide areas. So Maximan is going to pose a similar threat to Adama Traore, and so we've got to work on that. Notify those kind of threats. They've won 3 on the bounce.
It's time for a loss.
Absolutely. We've got to change it. They're pushing up towards the top half where we need to be. It'll be right up and hostile. It will be a good atmosphere. Let's make amends.
Definitely, and we will be back previewing the Newcastle game sometime next week. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Good to be back, mate. Good to be back.
Good to be back. We'll get some more content out for you guys over the international break. Got a few ideas. So yeah, watch this space. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. Comment your thoughts below on the game, and you know, has the international break come at a good time? I think it has.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, time to recoup, and also subscribe. Also, if you've been enjoying the B6 booth, which Dom has been doing, let us know as well, because he's quite passionate about that. So it'd be good to see some positive comments on that.
Absolutely.
Up the Villa.
Chester's essential. The fulfilling this got potential. It's a main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. 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 He's the main leader of the gang.